Hey, welcome. Welcome to the nap. This is the pre-show. This is the no answer period. We're not just going to go through a slideshow here. We're going to play an old intro from the 31st of October. It's a short one, it's, just under 2 minutes. And then after that, we'll go straight into a most dangerous man, some committee time with Gary, gun grab Gary. And that should take us practically all the way to the intro for today's show at past. That'll last about 8 minutes, and then we'll get right into the show. So, enjoy.
Out of control spending on consultants. Last year alone, over $20 billion on well-connected liberal insiders getting contracts. And this year, I think the number said that it's going to go as high as $25 billion.
Mr. Speaker, one thing we know about the Conservatives is that they don't know shame. You know what?
Yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier, investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, there's no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
It is too bad that minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday, because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears all of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of the country?
People in Canada know that this government has their back. It will be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Driving inflation. The more liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Now, Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest and telling Canadians.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
What's going on? Most dangerous man. There we go.
I understand the Liberals want to protect the Liberal minister. I'm not here for that. I'm here for answers. Let's keep going here.
All right, before we carry on with this video, just a reminder that 15 minutes before past, the countdown will start. And then at past, we will start with the intro for today's show and get right into it. So if you're here, thanks for hanging out. Please comment. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down, and we'll see you in a bit.
Minister, 600 foreign nationals were set to be deported. 70% of them committed violent crimes, including sex assaults. Where are they?
Thank you, Mr. Caputo. Thank you for that question. As you're aware, the Canada Border Services Agency is tasked with removals of those who are deemed to be
Minister, I'm sorry, we don't need a preamble. We just need an answer. Where are the 600 people who were set to be deported? Maybe I'll ask this way. Do you know where they are? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, if I may respond to this question in whole. So as you're aware, the CBSA is tasked with the removal of those who are inadmissible to Canada. In this particular case, we have been ensuring that removals have been taking place at an unprecedented rate.
I asked about the
18,000
600 people, Minister. I didn't ask about removals at an unprecedented rate. Do you know where they are? Yes or no?
Well, there is a set of.
I'll take that as a no, Minister. Let's move on.
Let's be clear, Mr. Caputo. There are a number of individuals who are in the process of being removed. So of the 600 you talk about, there is a breakdown, and I'd like to invite Gorman to
You are the
to respond
minister.
to this.
You are the expert. The Globe and Mail reported 600 people are missing. You're the minister. You're expected to know this. The buck stops with you. We have 6 minutes. You don't know. Let's move on. You promised 1,000 new border officers for the CBSA. How many have been hired?
So right now, as you're aware, we are in the process of ensuring that the 1,000 new CBSA officers will be trained appropriately.
Again, Minister, you're answering questions I'm not asking. I asked how many were hired. Simple number.
Mr. Caputo, I'm not here for your TikTok videos, okay? Like I'm here to.
No, and Minister, I'm here to
answer. I'm here to answer questions.
Mr. Minister, let's just these conversations are important, but they need to be understandable.
I'll commence. First of all, TikTok is banned in Canada. Second, I don't have an account. I'm here for Canadians. I'm here for answers. You can obfuscate. I will continue to press forward. RCMP didn't know how many of the 1,000 officers that they promised were hired. Just a number. How many?
So I will invite the RCMP
No,
Commissioner
I want to hear it from you,
answer
Minister.
this
From
question.
you, Minister.
Mr. Caputo, I'm not responsible for hiring of the officers.
You're not. I beg your pardon. You are the minister.
I'm sorry. This is not useful because it is obviously impossible for anyone
Mr. Chair,
listening
I'll
to
be very clear. I'm asking the minister these questions. The buck stops with him. I'm not asking for him to defer to anybody. If he doesn't know the answer, just say it. Just the other day on a recording, he said, "Don't ask me to explain the logic to you." He was perfectly capable of saying it then. He's capable of saying it now. Minister, do you know the number of the 1,000 promised RCMP officers? Yes or no?
Speaker, the RCMP are preparing to hire 1,000, including ensuring that training facilities at depot are equipped, because this will be solely for federal policing, and the work at depot to ensure that the right modules, the right level of training is in place is currently being prepared, and as soon as they're able to recruit, they will be hired and they will be on our streets.
Okay, that is a zero, I take it then, because you wouldn't give us a number. Now, Mr., you said in leaked audio that the gun buyback wouldn't work. Do you stand by that?
That is not what I said, Mr. Caputo.
Well, you could have fooled me, Minister. You actually said, quote, don't ask me to explain the logic to you. You talked about how it's only been 3 weeks on the job. I'm not an expert on this, right? I'm not an expert. The tone that you said was that this wouldn't work. It was being done for politics. Do you stand by that, yes or no?
That is not correct.
Do you believe that the buyback will work?
The buyback is right now being implemented. There's a pilot right now in Cape Breton.
That is not what I asked.
Mr. Chair, I would like I think the fair way to do this is that I get adequate time to respond to questions posed. So if I may, the buyback program is currently being implemented. There's a pilot right now in Cape Breton, Nova Scotia. From all accounts, the registration appears to be going well. We are ironing out any logistical issues that may arise.
Okay. That registration,
the program will be
let's
expanded
talk
across
about that.
Point of order,
Cannot
Mr.
be-
Chair. To add, Mr. Chair, that TikTok is not banned in Canada. It's available on the app stores. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I will reclaim my time, Canadians' time, when the minister is going on and on for speaking. I understand the Liberals want to protect the Liberal minister. I'm not here for that. I'm here for answers. Let's keep going here. You spoke about Cape Breton Island. Now, there is a chief who is the brother-in-law to a Liberal MP on Cape Breton Island. Did you speak with that chief in respect of this buyback? Just a yes or no, please.
Speaker, as you know, the Mass Casualty Commission report...
That's not what I asked, Minister. I asked whether you spoke with a chief.
Mr. Mr. Chair, I would like the opportunity to respond. The Mass Casualty Commission report indicated that governments need to do everything in their powers to ensure
I asked
that
whether you
assault
Mr.
style-
Caputo, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, he doesn't get to talk out the clock. He has to answer. I
I'm
asked
sorry,
whether he
I'm
spoke with the
sorry, I'm
chief
sorry.
chair. That's it. He doesn't get to talk
I'm
about
sorry
turkey
to-
basters
no,
or
no.
whatever we're going to talk about here. He has to speak about the questions he's given, and I won't stand for this as somebody representing Canadians to let him talk out the clock. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Point
but
of
I won't
order.
do that.
Okay, thank you. You have
Mr.
another 10 seconds, Mr. Caputo.
Did you speak with that chief? Yes or no?
Mr. Chair, the Mass Casualty Commission report in Nova Scotia indicated that governments need to do everything in their powers to get assault.
You spoke with a liberal insider.
That's it. Thank you so much for the first.
Thank you. Minister, I appreciate you talking about the rise in hate in Canada and the meetings that you said you've had with synagogues and mosque communities. Are you aware that 123 churches have been burned, vandalized, or desecrated in the last 4 years in Canada?
Mr. Lloyd, I'm aware that a number of places of worship, including churches, have been vandalized, yes.
Have you met with any of those congregations, Minister?
I have not met with those specific congregations, but I have met with many members of different church and faith groups.
You haven't met with any of the members of the congregations in Canada, churches that have been subject to hate crimes over the last 4 years in this country?
I have not, no.
Is it because hate crimes against Christians aren't a priority for this government, Minister?
That's absolutely incorrect.
Well, you said you met with synagogues and mosques, which I do appreciate. Those communities need your support, Minister, but Christian communities also need your support. Why have you not met with any of those communities, Minister?
Well, I can tell you that I meet with faith leaders, I meet with Christian leaders across Canada all the time.
Thank you.
I've met with...
I'm going to move on to the next question. There have been allegations made that there was an Antifa member who threw smoke bombs into a church service in Montreal this past summer. The allegations are that they're a government employee that work on a military base outside of Montreal. Are you aware of these allegations, and are they being investigated?
Allegations such as that are investigated by the police of jurisdiction, so that in this case it would be the City of Montreal Police.
Considering that this is a potential terrorism case, does this concern you? Are you at all concerned about potentially a government employee being a member of an organization like Antifa and committing a crime like throwing smoke bombs in a church service?
I'm concerned at every incidence of hate at any place, including churches, and certainly the allegation involves government employees. That makes me more concerned.
Minister, prominent members of your caucus have called for the banning of the SKS. These are hunting rifles that are used by Indigenous people and many others. Can you confirm to this committee, yes or no, is your government planning on banning the SKS?
No, but what I can say is that the expert panel is tasked to come up with recommendations.
To clarify, are you saying no, we can't confirm, or no, you are not banning the SKS?
No, we're not.
Okay. Minister, only a third of the $750 million that you're planning on spending on this gun confiscation is for compensating firearms owners. This number is estimated to be well short of the amount that's needed. If you continue on and compensate all these firearm owners, it's going to be well over $1 billion. How can you justify that expense when we've been told by the Customs and Immigration Union that we only have 300 CBSA officers who are at the borders and removing potentially violent criminals from Canada? How can you justify that expense?
I think that number is incorrect with respect to CBSA, and I can ask Ms. O'Gorman if you wish to clarify.
I'll move on to the next question. Thank you, Minister. Minister, trappers, foresters, biologists, Ms. O'Gorman, if you could provide that in writing to this committee at a later time, I'd really appreciate that. Thank you. Trappers, foresters, biologists, and other wilderness workers require protection from dangerous animals like cougars and bears. Minister, do you believe that these individuals should be able to carry handguns for their personal protection?
They should be able to carry the right type of equipment to do their job that is in line with Canadian law.
So these professionals, they do have to carry a lot of equipment into the wilderness. They can't just carry a rifle. It can be very heavy with all their other equipment. A sidearm is necessary for their safety. Do you support their right to do this?
I support their right to be equipped with the right type of tools that they need to do their job effectively and safely in line with Canadian law.
Does that include a handgun when necessary?
Again, I will repeat what I said, Mr. Lloyd.
Are you aware of what an authorization to carry is, Minister?
Yes, I am.
Are you aware what it takes to get an authorization to carry in Canada?
Yes, I am.
What is required to get an authorization to carry?
What will be required is a course that will ensure that they're properly trained in carrying the said type of firearm.
Yes, a proof of proficiency test. I'm pleased that you understand that, Minister. Minister, since your government brought in the handgun freeze, it's now become impossible for anyone to transfer or purchase a handgun. So how do you expect people to pass a proficiency test if they can never get access to a handgun?
Well, listen, these, as you're aware, this legislation was brought in as part of Bill C-21 and previously through a number of orders and councils. To date, we believe that the program is working well.
These members cannot get their proficiency test because of C-21. You're asking these people to go on their trap lines, to go into the forest without the proper equipment that they need. Do you commit to fixing this, Minister? Because you're putting these people's lives at risk because they can't access handguns because your government, in a reckless ideological decision, completely banned the transfer of handguns. So people cannot get their authorizations to carry. They cannot get their proficiency tests. What are you going to do to fix this, Minister?
Unfortunately, the time is over.
I just want to pick up on what the last question was because there seems to be a bit of a contradiction. So you have mentioned to my colleague that you would not ban the SKS. However, it's still under review whether you would ban the purchase and sale of the SKS. Can you please clarify?
Sure. At this point, there is no plan to ban the SKS. Okay, there's no. But however, the expert panel, there is an expert panel, as you're aware, as part of Bill C-21 that will, that if they do recommend movement on it, then we will make.
Okay, so this isn't a permanent promise. This is just a for now promise that we're not banning the SKS for now.
The commitment that I've made is that there's 2,500 prohibited firearms as part of the 3 sets of orders in council that are the subject of the buyback program. So those will.
Don't know, please just tell us, please don't ask the officials. Since the Liberal government took power, how much is violent crime up, sir?
Well, I can assure the member that crime overall is generally on the downward trend across Canada.
It's I'll help you. It's 55%. Again, just a number. What are homicides up since the Liberal government took power?
In the city of Toronto, it's down 51% from this time last year.
That's not what I asked, sir. I asked how much homicides are up. 29% since your government took power. What about sexual assaults? What are they up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
Mr. Caputo, this is not a test. Okay, so let me just suggest that overall, general trend of crime has been going down. Having said that, I think there's a lot of work that we need to do. There are areas that are of concern, and as a government, we're bringing forward legislation to strengthen issues
with respect,
such as bail.
Minister, I asked for numbers. Okay, you are the minister, so with all due respect, we can ask these questions on behalf of Canadians and do it in good faith. What's extortion up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
Again, let me just say that overall, there's some type of crimes that are on the uptick.
330%, Minister. Auto theft. What is that up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
It's down 19% nationwide. It's down 25% in Ontario and 22% in Quebec.
And it's up 25.33% since your government took power. What about hate crimes? MP Lloyd talked to you about that. What are they up since your government took power? Just a number, please.
Hate crime has, since particularly October 7th of 2023, it's been up significantly.
258% in the last 10 years. And you still haven't met with some of the congregations. How about gun crime? Not the last year, the last 10 years. What is it up, Minister? Just a number, please.
Well, let me suggest, Mr. Caputo, if you're serious about ensuring the safety and security of Canadians and addressing issues of gun crimes.
That's not what I asked.
We need to have a holistic approach.
Minister,
attention, Monsieur Caputo, je vais le dire en français cette fois-ci.
With all due respect, Minister, I prosecuted gun crimes on a number of occasions. Please, I understand the impacts of gun crimes. I've looked victims in the eye. Victims who I think will want to know that the minister knows that gun crime has soared 130%. 40% since Liberals took office. How about
Mr. Caputo,
no, I'm asking the question here, Minister. This is my time on behalf of Canadians to ask questions, sir. How about in Toronto? Total violent crime. How much is it up since 2015?
Mr. Caputo, in my previous role, unfortunately have had to bury a number of young people who lost their lives to gun violence. There isn't a person in this room that will say that gun violence of any form is acceptable. What we need to do here in this parliament and this committee and across party lines is to have a mature conversation about the impacts of guns.
And I am
without
happy
without
to do that,
politicizing
Minister.
it, and
Minister,
without.
we have very limited time. I have one more question for you. Is Toronto safe?
Mr. Caputo, I represent Scarborough, Guildwood, Rouge Park. It is a very safe community. Around the city of Toronto, it is safe. There are incidents that have happened that may appear to make it unsafe, but I can tell you from the Toronto Police Service, homicides are down 51% from last year. Shooting and firearms discharge are down 40% from this time last year. Overall, for example, auto theft are down above 22%.
Mr. Au does need some time. Thank you.
30 seconds, MP Au.
Minister, as the public safety minister, are you aware of the diversion of so-called safe supply drugs to the black market in BC?
There are issues that are happening in BC, and a lot of it falls under the jurisdiction of the province, Mr. Au.
Do you know the magnitude of the problem? Do you know how much money flowed into the hands of the criminals?
Mr. Au, the issues around illegal drugs.
I'm sorry to
fentanyl.
interrupt, but time is up.
Minister, I want to continue with my question. So do you know the magnitude of the problem that the safer supply drugs are being resold to the criminals?
Mr. Au, I recognize the deep impact of drugs, illegal drugs, including what you're suggesting, which is selling of safe supply, has on communities. It is abhorrent. I've had the chance to meet with many law enforcement, even including in British
Minister,
Columbia.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but do you know the magnitude? So how many pills were being get into the hands of criminals? How much money flowed into the hands of criminals? Do you know that?
Mr. Au, with respect to British Columbia, I do not know that.
Okay. Now, again, do you know that the police chief of London, Mr. Tai Tran, said that the safer supply program are fueling the illegal drug trade? Are you aware of that?
I've had the opportunity to meet with the police services in London. The chief, when I visited there, was not in London, so I wasn't able to meet with him, but I was met with his deputies as well as a number of his superintendents. We talked about some of the challenges that they face in their downtown, including on issues
Minister,
around safe
you know,
supply.
the time I have to interrupt. So clearly, you do not have the information. So is it not your obligation to be informed?
Mr. Au, I am well aware of the challenges that are faced by our main streets, many of our municipalities. I've been working with the Fentanyl Czar. Even yesterday I met with the Fentanyl Czar and several organizations relating to mental health. I have visited many of the downtowns of incidences that you're talking about, and I deeply understand the challenges that we face. It is a culmination of issues that congregate.
Okay, again, sorry for the interruption. Now, this is an article in a medical journal, JAMA, and in this article, it reported that the safer supply program was associated with increased opioid-related hospitalizations, expanded illegal supply, and increased demand of illicit drugs. So are you aware of this report?
I did not personally read that report, no, I did not.
So you are not on top of the issue. So how could
Mr. Rao, you're showing me a piece of paper. It doesn't. You don't even cite what the article is. You don't cite who the author is. You don't cite who the researcher is. You don't cite with which institution is attached to it, and you're asking me to comment on it.
So is this
I'm
not,
telling you
not
that
your
I have
obligation?
not.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. MPL. This is becoming difficult to understand and to follow.
So is it not your obligation and your responsibility to be informed and be on top of the issues so that Canadians will not suffer from the illegal supply of drugs on the streets?
Mr. Rao, I invite you to go through my itinerary over the last 4.5 months. Every major city, every mid-sized municipality I've visited. I have visited the downtowns. I have visited many of the areas where there are challenges, including on drug use, on fentanyl use, on meth use, and I wholly understand the challenges. Let's not
let's not
question
talking about
each other's
political problem.
Mr. Rao,
Sorry.
If I may,
Mr. Minister and MPL.
Yeah, I'm particularly talking about the safer supply program. It's because of the exemption given by your government that these drugs are being flowed into the hands of criminals. More people die of overdose. More young people are being, get into drugs, and the money that flow into the hands of criminals are making the problems even worse. And the Canadians are feeling that they are not being safe in their community. So how could you not take responsibility?
Mr. Rao, you're talking about a program that is run by the provinces. Safe Supply is not that's run by the federal government or authorized by the federal government. It is at the request of the provinces that these programs run. I will take responsibility for a lot of things, Mr. Rao, but I'm not taking responsibility for something that the province is responsible for. What I do want to talk about, if I may, is...
So again, sorry to interrupt, I would pass on the time to my colleague, Mr. Gill.
Unfortunately, there are only 10 seconds left, MP Gill, so I doubt that there will be an answer.
Well, I'll make it very straightforward question here. Do you know the leading cause of death for children in BC?
Look, I think there are a lot of things happening, but I know fentanyl is amongst the top.
Yes, so
I'm
overdose.
sorry to interrupt, but that's all the time we got.
Yeah. Class in session. Somebody get these dudes a handbook, man. Oh, yeah. Gun grab Gary got a press crew. Zero facts talking about bandits, bandad, flipping all the stack. You don't know our pal from a cereal pack. Think pal is a buddy that just has your back. You confuse ATT with an SUV. Say assault style scary on the CBC. You see a lock safe, you call that a crime scene. I see test background checks, daily RCMP screen. Alberta said hard pass, sent it in ink. Saskatchewan too, told you what they really think. You planned a big grab, thought we'd all just blink. Now province is bailing like that registry stink. You brag we're coming to collect, talking real bold. Till you learn it's licensed folks that you trying to scold. It's grandpa's duck gun, 5 rounds plug load. Not the criminals, the justice system. Ready. You don't know the code, can't spell our hell, but you run the show. Confiscation, Carney lost on the road. Talk big on screens, never read the law though. CCFR. Yeah, they speak our voice for the want some repeat. You chasing on a town hall stage. PowerPoint charts, fear in the cage. Point to a picture, this looks like war. That's a target rifle champ with a match grade core. You love that photo op vest, wanna look real tough, but you flinch every time the flash go puff. You say just turn them in, it's a simple task. Then choke when the bill hits, do the budget math. Toronto police look sideways like who pays? OPP read the memo trying to dodge that maze. You pass the blame around 9 whole ways, but the street crews laugh, still set they plays. You chase guys who book lanes, sign a waiver sheet, check locks twice, sweep brass, keep the benches neat. Meanwhile, no plan for the ones who cheat. Just one more press hit, then you hit repeat. Gun grab Gary, you don't know the code. Can't say Ruger, but you run your show. Confiscation, Carney lost on the road. Talk big on screens, never read the law though. CCFR, yeah, they speak our peace. Voice for the folks that just want some peace. From range to field, we comply and repeat. You chase headlines, they deal with receipts. You banned by brochure, legislate by mean. We study every clause just to keep it clean. You chase the law abiding, frame them on the screen, but facts don't bend just to match your scheme. Gun grab Gary, you don't know the code. Can't spell or pale, but you run your show. Confiscation, Connie lost on the road. Talk big on screens, never read the law though. CCFR, yeah, they speak our peace. Voice for the folks that just want some peace. From range to the field, we comply, repeat. You chase headlines, they deal with receipts.
Have sent hundreds of millions of Canadian tax dollars overseas for stupid, ideologically driven pet projects like $8 million for gender-just rice farming in Vietnam, closing Canadian research centers that benefit Canadians. Why not stop the phony foreign aid?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives.
Meanwhile, the Liberals have sent hundreds of millions of Canadian tax dollars overseas for stupid, ideologically driven pet projects like $8 million for gender-just rice farming in Vietnam, closing Canadian research centers that benefit Canadians. Why not stop the phony foreign aid?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Somebody get these dudes a handbook.
The Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech.
Gun grab Gary got a press crew. Zero facts, talking about bandits, bandats, flipping all the stacks. You don't know our pal from a cereal pack. Think pal is a buddy that just has your back. You confuse ATT with an SUV. Say assault style scary on the CBC. You see a lot say, you call that a crime scene. I see test background checks daily, RCMP screen. Alberta said hard pass.
Because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and will continue to do there's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.
The new world order.
Liberals never let solutions get in the way of their ideology. While this jet-setting Prime Minister travels the world to glad hand and talk about his New World Order, food prices are up and families are struggling to put food on the table. In the meantime, this government is closing the very agricultural research centres that allow Canadian farms and agribusinesses to be so innovative. When will the Liberals finally understand that when we learn more, grow more, build more, and export more, incomes go up and life becomes more affordable for Canadians?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Look, Mr. Speaker, we know this is going to be a difficult time for some, but this was the mandate that Canadians elected us for, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Streamlining research, collaboration with academia and private sector, prioritizing high-impact areas, reducing duplication and aligning project with needs of farmers and ranchers across this country, Mr. Speaker. We're going to work with our stakeholders, Mr. Speaker, and move this industry and sector forward that has been neglected for over 20 years. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
It is wild to hear the Foreign Affairs Minister claim that they support science when the Liberals are literally attacking agricultural research. They are shutting down research centres in Lacombe, Indian Head, Guelph, Quebec City, Portage-la-Prairie, and Cumberland County. Meanwhile, they spend $19 billion on consultants, $33 million on a prison farm, $22 million on beans for women for empowerment in Congo. Why is the Prime Minister dismantling the foundation of Canadian food security just to fund his foreign virtue signaling?
Right on.
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let's be clear. Science plays an integral role and will continue to play an integral role in this country for agriculture and agri-food. Mr. Speaker, we are maintaining our research and development presence in every single province, and the department continues to be the largest science service center in this country with 17 sites.
That's right.
By streamlining our research, we are prioritizing high-impact areas, reducing duplication, and better aligning our needs with our ranchers and farmers across this country. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Regina Capel.
They're not maintaining, they're cutting and shutting. Workers at the Indian Head Agricultural Research Farm are the latest to lose their jobs thanks to this Liberal government. This research centre provides cutting-edge innovation on soil management, crop varieties, and disease and pest resiliency. It provides jobs for Canadian scientists, improves Canadian crop production to the benefit of Canadian farmers. Meanwhile, the Liberals have sent hundreds of millions of Canadian tax dollars overseas for stupid, ideologically driven pet projects like $8 million for gender-just rice farming in Vietnam. Instead of closing Canadian research centres that benefit Canadians, why not stop the phony foreign aid project?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture. The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm not sure if that member's memory serves him correct, but I'll go back to 2011 and 2012. That may jog his memory a little bit. A focused agriculture research presence should move away from scattered, soiled research, siloed projects, and toward a mission-driven, outcome-oriented system that treats food production as a cornerstone of national security, economic resilience, and climate adaptation. This is what we're hearing from our stakeholders. We're going to move agriculture forward, and we're going to make science and research a big part of it. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Ponoka-Dinsmore.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have repeatedly told Canadians to trust the science, but now they're firing the very scientists who help feed Canadians. The government is shutting down 7 agriculture research centres across Canada, including the storied one in Lacombe. Meanwhile, the Liberals will waste $742 million on a gun grab that police say will do nothing. $742 million would keep the Lacombe research station open for 14 20 years, with 2.2 million Canadians lining up the food bank every month. Why is this government so hell-bent on wasting cash on programs that experts say will not work and killing the programs that the experts say will?
The Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Mr. Speaker, from talking to stakeholders across this country, we have a real opportunity to even advance our research, and we'll continue to do that. The department continues to be the largest agriculture research in Canada, but this opportunity for transformation in the research sector is most prominent in our agriculture and agri-food divisions, Mr. Speaker. We're going to continue to invest in agriculture and agri-research, partner with our academias, talk to our stakeholders, and move forward with the best science in the world as we have today.
That's great. The Honourable Member for Carleton.
I believe the progress that we have made in the partnership sets us up well for the new world order.
Hey, welcome to the nap, the no answer period. Sorry about all the glitches and the stops. My CPU keeps acting up, and the best way for me to do is just to pause the video, wait for the CPU to calm down for a couple of seconds, and then start it up again. No idea why it's doing it. I keep trying to fix what's going on my cheap equipment, but it's the best I can do. Welcome to the nap, the no answer period, where we cover the question period prefaced by a review of the far left evil that has beset our land and the events that surround it. The nap precedes question periods by 45 minutes, and we'll cover the lower house until the government decides to stop showing up. As you saw during our intro video, there's some stuff going on there in the committee for agriculture, and if you look over here on the screen, the Agricultural Committee actually sat today, subcommittee on agenda procedures for the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Agri-Food, and they went straight to in camera. And I see my CPU is acting again, making me all jumpy. Can't be helped. I don't know what's going on. Look at this, eh? I think it's a lot of the issues is my connection problems. Again, I've been having connection problems all week long. It doesn't help being next to one of the larger bases in Canada because they eat up a lot of bandwidth. I switched suppliers for my internet about 6 months ago, and I'm not seeing much of an improvement. So we're streaming on 3 platforms, Rumble, X, and YouTube. I'm very happy for those of you who've tuned in. I'm very grateful for my subscribers and followers. If you're not subscribed, please do on YouTube. And I see I've got 0 people watching on YouTube. Maybe it's because I've been talking too much about vaccines over the past couple of days on this channel, both on this show and on the Second Breakfast. Rumble is active, and of course, I've got more viewers on X. This is absolutely wonderful. I'd like to thank my followers for doing so. And by the way, the chat is up, so please feel free to comment. Comments drive the algorithm when I'm not driving it down with my forbidden words, which apparently seems to be happening if I'm getting 0 engagement on YouTube. And I am broadcasting there. I don't have chat. Anyway, so Parliament is in session today. Tomorrow they will be in a little earlier at 10. A reminder tomorrow morning at 9 will be Blazing Cat Fur Fridays, where we will be covering some stories in the GTA and around the world on one of the best news aggregates on the planet that is now celebrating 20 years this month of publishing nonstop. 20 years every single day. It's quite an accomplishment for Blazing Cat Fur Friday. So join us there tomorrow morning at 9 when we do a cold read through for about a half hour. And after that, we'll take a break, and then we'll be back 45 minutes before the House sits tomorrow morning. That is when question period starts. Now, of course, as a reminder, every day there's an order paper published if you want to know what's going on in Parliament. I forget where the studio moved. There we go. That should cut down some CPU usage right now. And in the order paper was where all these questions were being asked about what's going on with all the vaccine harms and all that stuff. And of course, they decided that they were going to just delete and hide records quicker, right? So let's delete all the emails after 30 days. Let's delete all the chats after 15 days. And of course, the government is withholding the data that may link COVID jabs to excess deaths. So like in the UK, they're afraid it's going to cause a lot of people to lose their bloody minds if the information should ever come out. So that's why they want to hide the information for 15 bloody years. Yeah, and who's going to help them with that? Well, obviously, that's going to be the mainstream media, and that's why they're not talking about it at all whatsoever. Blacklock's covered the story. Wouldn't even know if the mainstream media talked about it. Nobody's talking about it. In fact, it's been what, a couple of days now, and not a peep out of the Conservative Party either on this situation whatsoever. Not even brought up in the House. Do you guys have the same question? I know you have an agenda. You want to make sure that the Liberals look really bad, which of course they should, because the mainstream media is not doing their job at basically destroying the economy and having people to choose between, well, living and eating, basically, because right now that's the only agenda that's going to work on waking people up in Canada, because the media is not going to do it for them because they're completely purchased, right? They're giving them 27 to 30 grand per member to fund them. It's insane. So of course, we've got our channels. So let's get into some of these stories. And also a reminder, right, that this was right on the heels of the government of Canada admitting that there were 10,000 Canadians that were injured, killed by COVID vaccines. And then they decided, oh, I guess we should hide all those records for 15 years. But it's having the reverse effect. I think it's having a Barbara Streisand effect. As much as they don't want it to, as much as they're trying not to talk about it, the people, you can't dismiss all the walking around examples that are out there. And of course, the World Economic Forum had admitted the COVID-19 pandemic served as a test of the public's willingness to comply with their vision for the planet. And of course, the Liberal government is all in on this, right? Here's some classic gaslighting, right? Sure. Basically, they've come out and said that we have to maintain the illusion of control until they have complete control, which is why they're trying so hard to basically dismiss the CPC, the Conservatives, by selling the argument that, oh, they're obstructing all these bills, when in fact in those bills are authoritarian measures that they will no longer need to give the illusion of control, because they will have full control, absolute full control. And yes, Mark Miller, this nasty little man. Let's just listen to David here on.
Say further down that Parliament in 2019 approved of a $595 million media bailout that currently pays federally approved newsrooms a yearly rebate up to nearly $30,000 per employee. Witnesses at 2022 hearings of a Heritage Committee said government involvement fueled mistrust. They're paying off the media, and now they're blaming influencers for misinformation. It's just absolutely wild. And this is going to get especially worse here with the next clip. With that, we've got this clip going around. This is the smoking gun. So I played a clip in a previous video of Conservative Rachel Thomas reading out a quote from the media talking about supporting Mark Carney. Well, we've got the clip here. So I mentioned this in the previous video, and then we have this account here, Melanie in Saskatchewan. She had this on her screen or on her PVR, and she rewound it, filmed the screen of it, and so then I downloaded it. I cleaned up the audio, which is the version here on my X account. And just to set this up here, so we've got these two guys that come out after Mark Carney spoke at that event. And so this is the event here. And so after Carney speaks,
the average episode has already been rewatched.
Talking about some show or whatever, but at the end of this, you can see there's nothing here. He just leaves.
The new bearskin hoodie 4.0 claims to be the most...
Sorry about that, bloody commercials. There you go.
That is the source of the video. This has been trimmed on here because what you're going to see here next, this clip doesn't exist anywhere. I don't know if it was trimmed initially or what, but this doesn't exist aside from a PVR and a TV.
The Prime Minister know that every person in this room and the 180,000 people who work in this industry have your back, just as we know that you have ours.
Little head nod from this guy too. This is one of the most outrageous clips I've heard in a long time. Just the outright admission of supporting Mark Carney because they're getting taxpayer money to do it.
So it's obvious that the liberals have purchased their own army of propagandists, but it doesn't stop there, right? They even with this going on in mainstream media, the government is still going crazy because they can't control all the independent media, which is why Mark Miller came out and blamed independent creators for, creating bad messages that make people feel bad. Meanwhile, the liberal government is perpetually selling a message of hatred of other people in order to garner fear so they can hold control, always demonizing somebody, never working with somebody, but always demanding. And then when somebody says another message just counter to theirs, oh, well, let's see, we're going to appeal the Emergencies Act so we can use violence to crush peaceful protest again. Seems to be their response. But, here we have York Region, saw a 92% rise in shootings and 106% increase in carjackings. But, the police there have their priorities. And of course, I don't have the sound on this because they've got some kind of weird music that'll just, get flagged once the stream goes through YouTube. But yeah, that's York Region right there. So what's going on in York Region? Oh, let's see. Corruption has no place in policing. York police say 7 Toronto police officers, 1 retired officer charged. What are they being charged with? Well, let's see. Looks like crime. Yeah. Lengthy investigation into organized crime corruption. This comes from multiple sources. That 9 Toronto police officers are facing charges related to violent incidences involving tow trucks across the GTA. Oh, yeah. If you guys don't know the situation with tow trucks in the GTA, they got a bit of a gang going, right? So there's a lot of competition because they're basically just cruising all the main arteries looking for vehicles that are broken down. And whenever somebody's broken down, boof, they're there and they show up. And they certainly don't want any other competition to show up. So they resort to violence. Now, of course, this was a problem before 2015. It's always been a problem in the GTA since I started looking into it 20 years ago. But of course, it has exploded since 2015 because nobody can be held accountable for their crimes in Canada anymore, unless, of course, you're the wrong skin color, and then you're going to get the full force of the law. And especially if you're the wrong ideology, double that force of the law. Well, it looks like disgraced Prince Andrew from the royal house is looking at some problems, eh? Can we get this to stop here? Hello? These bloody videos.
Former Duke has spent his first night away from Royal Lodge. 3 months after the King formally served an eviction notice to his brother Andrew, the disgraced former Duke has spent his first night away from Royal Lodge. The Sun's royal editor Matt Wilkinson has exclusively revealed that Andrew's now moved into Wood Farm Cottage on the Sandringham estate in Norfolk, 141 miles from his sprawling former home in Windsor. Wood Farm will just be a temporary accommodation for Andrew. He's set to move into the nearby Marsh Farm permanently once renovations there are finished. A spokesman for Buckingham Palace declined to comment on this story. News of Andrew's exit from Windsor comes amid a torrent of bombshell new documents shedding new light on his relationship with convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, which was released by the US Justice Department on Friday, heaping yet more shame on the former royal. 3 months after the King
Well, you know who else? Who other's name was mentioned several times in the Epstein documents, and that would be our Prime Minister Mark Carney. Yeah, and even Justin Trudeau, our prior Prime Minister. And you know whose name is not in the Epstein files? Pierre Poilievre. So why isn't the mainstream media talking about Mark Carney's name in the Epstein files? Wonder why. Wonder why that is. Well, let's have this video is from 2019, but it basically shows a bad idea unfolding. And of course, I'll get dinged for the music, so I have to stop the music. But yeah, it's quite insane. You grab a whole bunch of mountain bikers and you put them on a snowy hill, and then you tell them to all go at the same time. Whoa! Oh, that's horrible. Ah! Oh, I can't watch any more pain. This is too much. Too much pain for me. Now let's listen to some committee time here. Now, absolutely egregious, writes Andrew Lawton. Not only are the Liberals refusing to let us study Bill C-16 and protect women and children, they're trying to ram their censorship Bill C-9 through committee with just 2 hours of debate on amendments, to which it would be automatic. It would automatically go to vote. Now, this was yesterday, right? And again, this is constant with the Liberals who continue to call out the Conservatives for not working with them. And they had come to an arrangement in his committee before to go to Bill C-14 and deal with that. But of course, the minister that they brought in has been making a fool of himself because they realize that they're not dealing with the real issue in Bill C-14, which is making sure that repeat offenders stay in jail because it's not there. So like, well, it's not there. So what are you guys doing? That's because there's other stuff they want to bring into the bill that gives them more power. Now, we can play this video, but we notice here that Andrew had an update. The Liberals backed off on limiting debate on C9 to 2 hours. They still intend to prioritize it ahead of other justice legislation, however, starting on Monday. So they're back to their censorship bill, right? That's all they want is censorship for Canadians. Why? Because that's how they control you. Their ultimate goal is complete and utter control. You destroy the economy, you make everyone dependent on national socialist handouts, ergo the latest food stamp legislation. That's what I call it, because the Liberals really are a food stamp party. You get that into play, you remove everyone's jobs, right? And then you remove everyone's ability to complain about it. And if you even do engage in peaceful protests, and there's too many of you, and you do it too long, hey, we'll just invoke the Emergencies Act again and crush your freedom through violence. Which is why they intend to appeal. They got 30 days to appeal, right? And it's not 30 days, has not expired yet, but their intent is to do it. I think they're betting on the fact that they have 6 out of the 9 judges that have been appointed by Liberals in the Supreme Court. And so far, the Supreme Court has only been friendly to the government, mostly, I think, except for one ruling when it comes to anything and everything related to the COVID-19 mandates and people going against the court. When it gets to the Supreme Court, that is. Everyone seems to appealing it all the way up there. Ben the AI toddler is back. I never heard of Ben the AI toddler. His opening line about moving to Pakistan is hilarious. See, this is really interesting now that we have AI protesters basically bringing the governments to task. And of course, nobody can hold these people to account because it's just an AI character. And they're doing it in a comedic way. Again, this is another reason why a lot of people who can't control the media want to ban X. See if this plays here.
Ben, where are you going?
I'm going to Pakistan, not going to speak their language, claim their benefits and break all their laws, see how they like it.
Ben, what's up?
Just got kicked out of Tesco for saying I'm doing Christmas shopping. Apparently that was Islamophobic now.
What is this woke nonsense? Ben, what's wrong?
Got sent to the principal for wearing a poppy. Being British is fucking offensive now.
Ben, what's wrong?
Labour kept pestering me for donations, and when I said no, I got fined for hate speech.
Britain's gone. Ben, what do you think of Labour's sugar limit?
I'd love to tell you, mate, but I got fined the last time I tried to say something.
Ben, what's your own ambition in life?
Get Labour out.
Ben, what's for lunch?
All they sell is curry now, thanks to Labour and the illegals.
Ben, where you going, mate?
Getting the fuck out of Britain, mate, full of illegals and furries.
Yes, I wonder if there's a higher percentage of furries in the UK than there are anywhere else. If you don't know what a furry is, I suggest you look it up. Well, let's look at shameful Mark Miller, this piece of detritus.
exemptions from the hate speech laws to pass Bill C9. You're the chair of the Justice Committee.
Right.
Is that happening?
Well, I had to question myself. Look, I'm a person of faith. I'm Christian. I have very, very deep beliefs. The reality is I don't think people should be using the Bible, the Quran, or the Torah to escape from committing a hate crime or claim that what would otherwise be a hate crime is done in the name of a religious text. You can look at the religious texts yourself and see what they mean, but the reality is that there is an exception in the criminal code that are making people hesitate. And when the conservatives...
Hey, I can only take so much of his bullshit. Right? There's already a definition of hate in Canada. They want to change it and make it less specific so they can bring in censorious charges against anybody and everybody. Let's not forget, there are already laws on the books that deal with hate crimes, that deal with violence, that deal with anything that comes out as a result of this, but they don't want to enforce them. They won't want to do that at all. So they want to create this false narrative in order to bring in more controls. And in fact, if there's anyone responsible for hate in Canada, it's been the Liberal Party, especially during the COVID mandates, when they taught everyone to hate the unvaccinated. I'll turn around and seal those records for 15 years, but that's how it started. They taught everyone to fear and hate them, and they haven't stopped with their hate propaganda. They constantly have to create a boogeyman. Because if it wasn't for the constant pressure victim narrative, they would never have a story to tell. Sorry, guys, I see my CPU scraped up a little bit there. I'm a little choppy. Just waiting for the choppiness to settle down. Bloody hell, why is my CPU doing this? It's running. Right? I even have the house on pause. I don't even have that stream coming in. And we are 14 minutes away. Can't listen to Mark Miller. You know, Mark Miller hasn't spoken much in the House either. That's a blessing. Now, speaking of Mark Miller, as Trudeau's immigration minister, Mark Miller may have been the most disastrous cabinet minister of any government in Canadian history. Why is he coming back to cabinet? That was a good question back then, wasn't it? What is that, December 1st, 2025? As Justin Trudeau's Minister of Immigration, Mark Miller linked Canada's immigration levels to the highest in modern history and completely broke the immigration system. Now Carney is putting him in charge of implementing liberal internet censorship. Yeah. They're nothing but a series of ministerial losers that we've had as they shift from one portfolio to the next, just causing more and more disaster. And if you saw during the intro with the issues going on in agriculture and the CFIA, wanting to shut down all these science stations that they have in order to basically run roughshod over farmers, enacting centralist international United Nations regulations that basically demand that you destroy everything. Oh, one bird got tested possibly positive by one of our PCR tests that we know is 80% inefficient. So we're gonna have to destroy your entire herd, your entire flock. And they're basically going in and destroying the livelihood of farmers. Then they're not giving them recompense. And for no other reason than they're employing these new rules without using any common sense. We never had to do this before in the past. Now, of course, they're going to say, oh, these are for international trade reasons. If we don't do this, we won't be able to export our stuff. Oh, really? Well, in the meantime, you destroy people's livelihoods. The way you do that, it's because you want all those farms to be bought over by your international friends or your other friends or large corporations. Because right now, a lot of what's happening in Canada is just being sold off to international holders. And I see him still getting choppy on and off here. Can't really. Oh, look at this CPU up to 30%. What the hell? So taxpayer-funded spin doctors. Yeah, Ottawa spent $262,000 teaching bureaucrats how to dodge Parliament's questions. Now, again, I always like to put the amount of money that the government's spending into perspective. And let's not forget that with an over $1 trillion debt in Canada, we are spending $10 million an hour in interest debt charges, which is probably more because that figure was before the $80 billion got added to the deficit from Carney's latest, cook in the books mishmash of a budget that he put forward. But yeah, so this 262, that's not even, I'd have to use my calculator. I don't even know how many seconds that would be out of an entire hour. Well, how many minutes? I don't even know how many minutes this would be out of an entire hour worth $10 million per hour that we cost. Sorry, that the Liberals are now costing us. So anyways, they were teaching these bureaucrats how to dodge Parliament's questions. Yeah, instead of just answering the questions, right, they're training these bureaucrats to basically hinder members of Parliament who represent their citizens, their constituents, from being answerable to the citizens. These bureaucrats that are paid for by our tax dollars are being taught to evade questions by the people who fund them. What is going on? This is yet another example of the Liberals purposefully hiding everything that they do in darkness, whether they're censoring records, whether they're deleting them, whether they're deciding to hide them for 15 years, whether they just give redacted documents when demanded within the lower house as opposed to giving them unredacted, or fighting releasing documents for years as opposed to just giving them up. Let's not forget, 2015, Trudeau came along and said, we will be the most transparent government ever. Again, nothing but lies. Nothing but lies. Now here's Canada sitting on a powder keg with over 1 million people currently living here on expired visas and 4 million more permits set to expire by year's end. That's this year, 4 million. That's 5 million. The government's plan for enforcement is nothing. Minister Mark Miller admits the government just expects people to leave voluntarily. Meanwhile, CBSA is only removing 1% of those with expired visas. The taxpayer footing with a $900 million healthcare bill for asylum seekers in just 1 year. This is absolutely insane. So we have enough time to watch this video before the House starts. Because they always start late. It's 6 past now, and it's just 15 minutes. Oh, yeah, we have enough time. We might get through the whole thing. Let's follow this through until the lower house sits. And again, sorry if it gets a bit choppy. I can't seem to control the issue.
Many ways that people leave the country, Tom.
How will you ensure that a person whose visa has expired will leave?
There are many ways that people leave the country, Tom. The vast majority leave voluntarily, and that's what's expected.
It's estimated that right now over 1 million people are living in Canada illegally, meaning that their visa, their temporary visa, has expired, and that by the end of this year, up to 4 million permits, temporary permits, so call it temporary workers, international students, will have expired since 2025. And considering what's going on in the US right now, it's hard not to ask that question, right? Because I'm going to share some numbers today that are very problematic when you start to see how many people actually, what is our enforcement policy in Canada? How many people actually leave when they're supposed to leave? Yeah. So that's the question I have for the audience. Do you believe that Canada should establish an ICE department just like the US has? By the end of today, I think you'll have an opinion.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. I don't think we necessarily need to just copy and paste the American version. There's some things that I don't necessarily wouldn't necessarily want them to do up here, but should there be a dedicated agency that's job is to go around and get rid of or deport people who are here illegally? Yeah, I don't have an issue with it.
Well, let's, before we get, before you share your opinion, how about we actually look at the numbers? Because the numbers, man, are problematic to say the least. So so I found a video. This is when I like to refer to mainstream media videos because the numbers that they use are extremely problematic. So if those numbers that they use are that bad, imagine how bad the real numbers are. Listen to this.
9 million people living in Canada on temporary resident, worker, or visitor extension permits have visas that expired last year or they will expire this year, and not including student visas. This according to new data from Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada. One Edmonton immigration lawyer says he's never seen so many people desperate for immigration help.
I have tissue paper in my office because you don't know the tears that people will, genuine tears, where people will cry and tell me the harshest stories, okay? And this is real life. These people are going to pay a heavy price.
Only a fraction of the 2.9 million people living here will get permanent residency. Canada's admissions target was 395,000 in 2025. The Canadian government expects the rest of them to leave. Shawar, who's been doing immigration law for nearly 2 decades, says that's not going to happen.
So we may be facing a situation like we have in the States, where we have ICE officers grabbing people in the US. We'll have CBSA officers grabbing people here. Whether or not that's a good look for Canada is something we have to look at as a nation and think about.
Data from Canada Border Services.
Before we continue the video, have you noticed that it's like they're making it us? They're making us the bad guys. Like, this is not a good look for Canada. Okay, but why the fuck are they still here? Like, how is it if your visa's expired, you're not supposed to be here anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I love how all those videos, and that's again why I want to use mainstream media to kind of show the narrative that they're pushing. Like, they're making it sound like we are at fault here for not providing extensions for those 2.9 million temporary visas that are going to have expired by the end of the year. So let's just finish the video. There's only like 20 seconds left, but it's just, you always see the mindset of mainstream media, right? It's never quite, don't report the facts. Just tell us what you think of the facts. And a lawyer telling me that he has a bunch of Kleenex in his office for people that are crying him a river, like, please.
Yeah, no, this is going to be a good conversation. So we'll finish this video here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the audience thinks, because I think, I think there's going to be some, I think it's going to be a good conversation.
Yep.
Agency shows there were more than 30,000 active removal warrants as of December, and more than 22,000 people were removed from Canada within the last year. In a statement, Canadian government spokesperson saying it is important to note that Canada is regaining control of its immigration system in order to restore balance and sustainability. Our approach puts immigration on a responsible path that allows Canada to respond to the needs of communities and fulfill its promise to offer opportunities to those who consider this country their home. From Edmonton.
So let me, before we get into it, because there's, what she's saying is actually very inaccurate. Like, her numbers are wrong. Her opinions are wrong. And I want to show you guys why first. Leading economist by the name of Benjamin Tall, which is he works for CIBC, is estimating that there's over or close to 1 million people right now living in Canada with expired visas. He says, and I quote here, how many expired visa holders remain and are still resident of Canada, ? In previous research, we estimate that numbers to be close to 1 million, with the overwhelming majority being expired temporary visa holder who arrived in Canada legally as long as a generation or two ago. Like, we're talking, they've been living here for like 40 years, 20, 40 years, because the generation is 20, 25 years. So 25 to 50 years. And I don't know if you heard, but in our 2.9 million by the end of this year, that does not count student visas. And Canada issues about almost 1 million of them a year. How many of them expire? Who knows? But here's the problem. Here's the massive issue that we're seeing in Canada. And this is why what we're seeing right now is going to get worse, because, I've spoke about this before, but there's an asylum loophole right now in Canada where the people that their visas are expired can apply for asylum seekers. And right now, for international students, It's absolute nonsense. But for international students, you know what the acceptance rate is if they apply for, let's say that their international student visas expires, they apply for asylum seeker. You know how many of them are accepted?
Well, all of them stay at least 3 years.
Well, technically the numbers are closer to, they're 4 actually. Right now it's between 4 and 8 years. The application process from beginning to end. But how many of them do you think gets approved after that waiting period? Give me a percentage.
50%?
No, 22%.
50.
22.
I mean,
22. So
it's still high. Yeah.
Yeah, but the problem is, as you were starting to mention, is that for those 4 years they get protected status, so they can no longer
of
be
course.
deported.
And they're using healthcare, they're using our infrastructure, using services.
Well,
we're paying for them. So yeah. I mean that costs money, right? So we have to consider that when we try to come up with with the correct policy here.
Look at those. I have the numbers. So not only do they get to stay, but they do get to apply. They become eligible for the refugee work permit if they apply for asylum seeker, which means that they get our free healthcare without having to provide into it. And
No,
here are the
bullshit.
numbers that were I don't know, but hold on, it gets worse, man. Listen to the numbers. And those numbers were reported by, I'm sure you know who the Toronto Star is, the wokest of the woke. They've removed, in their latest one, they've removed those numbers, but I was able to find an older version. But if you scroll, let me scroll down here. There you go, right here. According to the Immigration Department, it has covered 623,000 beneficiary in the fiscal year 2024-2025, up from 90,000 a decade ago. The expenses amounted to $896.5 million, up by $306 million from last year, due to increased volumes of claims. And they're talking about asylum claims. So that is just the health benefit that has cost Canadian. They've treated almost 625,000 people that were not Canadian, up from 90 10 years ago, and the expenses are almost 900 million. That almost tripled since last year. So 2023, 2024, 300 million. Last year, 2024, 2025, you're looking at almost $9 million was spent. That's just their healthcare. Yeah, that is just their healthcare, which isn't. It's absolutely insane.
That's the context, right? Yeah, so that's the context. I really want to get to this conversation because I think it's going to be a good one. And I actually, when we open the show,
you have to let me share like a couple more things just to make sure that all the information is out there, because it's one thing to have those people here. It's just we need to understand that, because the question is, should we have ICE? Me sharing.
It's just looking right now like statements are about to wrap up. So let's get into, where are we? We're in progress. How's it sitting? There we go.
Just learned of the loss of his heroic son. Weekend, I had a heartbreak.
I want to thank them for their commitment and their service. Thank you for your work.
The honourable member for Battle River Crowfoot.
Over the weekend, I had a heartbreaking conversation with Alan Halmagen, a friend of mine who had just learned of the loss of his heroic son, Gunner Sebastian Halmagen. Since Confederation, countless Canadians have answered their nation's call to serve, sacrifice, and all too often to never come home. Prime Minister Borden, speaking in 1916, remarked, and I quote, "On the solemn truth that the nation is not constituted of the living alone, there are those as well who have passed away and those yet to be born. So this responsibility comes to us as heirs of the past and trustees of the future. Sebastian told his father, who shared with me, that he wanted every young person to know that sacrifice and commitment to the Canadian Armed Forces was noble and worthy. I want to thank him for his service and his ultimate sacrifice. Offer my prayers and love to his wonderful family. And on behalf of all parliamentarians, say that we will never forget what he gave us.
Thank you very much, Ms. And there in Black Women Month is a time beyond.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians need hope. Hope for affordable groceries. Since this Prime Minister took office, he has promised to be judged by grocery store prices. Costs are rising twice as fast amongst the other G7 countries. And I asked the Prime Minister why. It's because of our weak dollar, he said, but he needs to protect it. Can the Prime Minister explain why he gave us a weak dollar and expensive groceries? The Honourable Minister of Finance. Mr. Speaker, I would like to quote the Leader of the Opposition from 26. He invited his colleagues to turn this rhetoric into reality. We see obstruction right now. Canadians asked us to present a plan to grow the Canadian economy, Mr. Speaker, to protect Canada's sovereignty and to ensure that Canadian families, our seniors, the young people, have a promising future, Mr. Speaker. Can the Leader of the Opposition, will he support the government to pass our budget? Rather than quoting people, he, in 2023, said that he would stabilize grocery prices before Thanksgiving. Now, it's been more than 2 years, and grocery prices are rising twice as much. We have the worst food inflation amongst the other G7 countries, and this finance minister who caused these issues, he's still in power. Why does the Prime Minister continue with these taxes and inflationary deficits, and why is he depriving Canadians of affordable food? The Honourable Minister, Mr. Speaker, allow me to help the Leader of the Opposition. He wrote in 2026 that it's time to leave rhetoric aside and to look at the reality of the situation. I know that the Leader of the Opposition was very concerned about his own future at the time, but if he saw the measure we announced to ensure food stability, there'll be a benefit that will help families. There'll be $500 million to have more food, and more importantly, he has the opportunity to support the government to help Canadians.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Under this Liberal government and under that particular minister, auto production has fallen by half. And the Prime Minister was elected promising that he would protect the auto industry and get a deal with the U.S. by July 21st. He broke both of those promises, and since there have been job losses at Cami Ingersoll, GM Oshawa, Stellantis Brampton, and PACCAR au Québec. Mr. Speaker, today he finally flip-flopped on his cherished EV mandate, but is bringing in a new subsidy for people to buy American-made automobiles. Why is he forcing Canadian workers to pay taxes to subsidize American vehicles?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
I know it's Thursday, but I have good news for the Leader of the Opposition. I have very good news for him, and I have good news for Canadian. It's called the Canada Auto Strategy, Mr. Speaker. In fact, the Prime Minister of Canada today was standing up for Canadian workers, for Canadian industry, for the future of the industry in this country. They can yell as much as they want on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, but the workers know what we have done for them. They know what we're doing today and what we're going to do in the future. Mr. Speaker, we'll build Canada strong.
The Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, that that minister was in charge of industrial policies, the Minister of Industry, while automobile production fell in Canada by half. And now under this Prime Minister, we've lost 5,000 more auto jobs. Here's the deal that he's announced today. The American president will continue to tariff Canadian-made automobiles going into the U.S., while Canadian taxpayers will be forced to subsidize American vehicles coming back into Canada. Instead of subsidizing American vehicles and killing Canadian jobs, why not take our plan to take the GST off Canadian-made automobiles?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I will tell him that under my watch, for the first time in Canadian history, we brought a European manufacturer to invest in our country, Mr. Speaker. It's called Volkswagen. It's called St. Thomas. It's called the car of the future, Mr. Speaker. Volkswagen has invested a record amount in Canada, Mr. Speaker. They can yell as much as they want, but the people in St. Thomas know who did it. They know what we're doing today, and they know we're going to support our worker, our industry, and the auto sector in this country, Mr. Speaker. Let them continue to criticize.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, he's literally yelling for us to stop yelling. This is an example of the Liberal illusion. The Prime Minister has put in charge of finance the industry minister who's responsible for auto production in Canada falling by half. Wow. And the present collapse of auto production and jobs in our country. Now, the Prime Minister broke his promise to negotiate a deal with the U.S., and now he wants to subsidize U.S.-made vehicles. Why not take taxes off Canadian-made vehicles so that we can bring home jobs to our country?
The Honourable Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, I don't need to speak loud because Canadians know what we did. If he wants to look at what we did under my watch, Mr. Speaker, let him talk about Windsor, Mr. Speaker, and about Nexstar. What we did, Mr. Speaker, is to see where the puck is going. That is truly Canadian. Making sure that we build the auto sector of today, but the auto sector of tomorrow, Mr. Speaker. We understood, and not even just Canadian. Bloomberg said that Canada would have the most complete supply chain when it comes to EV, Mr. Speaker. We are proud of our record. We are proud to invest in Canadian workers, and we'll build the industry of the future together.
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Bloomberg just said that the economy in Canada is shrinking under that minister and this Prime Minister, but from failed economic Liberal policy to failed immigration Liberal policy, Liberals have unleashed an extortion crisis by allowing Bishnoi gangsters into our country without screening. Now, they are allowing them to stay here by even after they're convicted if they make a phony refugee claim. Conservatives moved a motion at committee to kick extortionists out of our country after they've been convicted. Liberals voted it down. Wow. Will they join with us, stop obstructing, pass an amendment to the law so that we can kick extortionists and fake refugee claimants out of Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Justice.
Mr. Speaker, when it comes to extortion, the Conservatives have been uniquely unhelpful in advancing the laws that police are telling us they need to combat extortion. I received a message this morning from Patrick Brown, the Mayor of Brampton, saying that the Peel Regional Police have asked him to pass along the message that the Strong Borders Act is necessary to provide lawful access to help law enforcement break up extortion rings. Mr. Speaker, for months they have obstructed measures that were going to make bail and sentencing tougher on extortionists. It's one thing to stand up and make noise in the House of Commons. It's another to get the laws adopted. Let's do the job Canadians demand.
The Honourable Member for Berthier-Masquinongé. Mr. Speaker, some retirees have not received their old age pensions for 9 months. Civil servants warned the government last summer that this was due to Curam. But the Liberals didn't listen to the public servants. They gagged them. And the government's instructions to the civil servants was to absolutely not tell people that the delays or payment errors are because of Curam. Instead of attacking whistleblowers, why doesn't the government help retirees? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The department is doing everything it can to rapidly solve the issues. This includes enhancing training so that personnel is able to deal with requests faster. There are positive signs are showing that this training is paying off. Our bureau contacted the member across the way to see if they have any urgent cases, and I would ask them to contact me so we can respond. The honourable member for Berthier-Masquet-Angers. Mr. Speaker, there are seniors who are not receiving their old age pensions, and instead of helping them, the Liberals are trying to protect themselves. It's extremely worrisome because the same Curam system is experiencing problems with the payment of old age and also EI and the federal pension plan. By minimizing the problems instead of solving them, the Liberals are creating the perfect conditions for a storm that would make Phoenix look like a simple storm. When are they going to fix the problems instead of intimidating public servants? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Our government is protecting seniors. We are offering dental care, enhanced OAS, and lodging for seniors. We're modernizing the digital and benefit system. And I would ask the member across the way to give me the names of these people, and we will help them. The honourable member for Shefford. Mr. Speaker, quite frankly, one wonders if the minister reads French language media, because if she did, she would stop downplaying the problems of retirees who are not receiving their old age pensions. And if so, they would know that civil servants have resorted to acting as whistleblowers because they're so fed up with being silenced instead of being helped. Enough is enough. There are errors in pensions because of the Curam software. All civil servants are saying so, and the Liberals seem to be putting more energy into covering up the problem rather than solving it. When are they going to take action? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I do read French language medium, but I also work in English and in French, like many people in this House.
Mr. Speaker, we have focused all our resources on making sure that we get through the waiting list. Mr. Speaker, it is shrinking every day. I thank the civil service, by the way, for taking the effort to learn this system and learn it well. And as I mentioned, we've been in contact with these members of Parliament. If they have urgent cases, please send them to me. We haven't received any names yet.
The honourable member for Thornhill.
3 years ago, the finance minister promised to stabilize food prices, and he did, at record highs. Canada now has the worst food inflation in the G7, twice as high as when the Prime Minister took office and twice as high as the U.S. And now the minister offers another temporary rebate that won't lower the price of a single item, while admitting his so-called historic summit that he got CEOs to come to Ottawa for was a failure. They voted against our common sense motion yesterday to lower food costs. Why won't they just take off the taxes off of food?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
The real question, Mr. Speaker, is why won't the Conservatives vote for the plan, the Prime Minister's plan, the Prime Minister's economic plan, the one that gets projects built quickly, that puts $1 trillion of investment into our economy, that uses Canadian lumber, Canadian steel, Canadian ingenuity, and the great union work of Canadian brothers and sisters to build our country strong? When, I just want a date from the honourable member, when will they pass the Budget Implementation Act, the Prime Minister's plan to build Canada?
The honourable member for Thornhill.
Speaker, my colleague knows that I'm talking about a grocery plan, but it doesn't actually lower the price of groceries. It's a $10 coupon on a $300 grocery bill, and it's insulting. And the rebate won't lower a single price. That's, of course, after they put forward a budget, which this wasn't even in. Meanwhile, they keep hiking the fuel taxes, the packaging taxes, driving food costs higher, and blaming everyone else and their decade of failure for it. Why won't they lower the prices? If they won't do that, why don't they take the taxes off of food?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Mr. Speaker, you know what's it's insulting to the constituents of Thornhill when that member votes against the very things that they themselves are saying are useful. In fact, not just her constituents, but certainly the food banks in her riding would say that the announcement the Prime Minister made on the GST, on the essentials benefit, and on strengthening our food security, and on supporting food banks, and on supporting producers is exactly what we need to do for food security in this country. She needs to get on board. And
How sad is it that the Liberal Party only has food banks as their champions? Really? That's what you're going to run on in the next election? Food banks say Liberal Party does the best for them. These people are insane.
stop voting against the very constituents she represents.
The honourable member for Calgary Midnapore.
The Prime Minister is doing everything possible to ignore the reality that Canadians are facing in their daily lives. Food inflation in Canada is twice as high as it is in the United States, and the temporary measures that the Liberals are offering will not result in a single grocery price reduction. They had an opportunity to collaborate yesterday and pass our motion, which would have lowered prices at the grocery store, but they voted against it. Why is it that the Prime Minister's personal agenda always comes before the needs of everyday Canadians?
Good question.
The Honourable Secretary of State for Financial Institutions.
Mr. Speaker, we have a Prime Minister with world-class business and economic experience. We've cut taxes for millions of Canadians, and just last week we announced a groceries and essentials benefit that will put up to $1,900 in the pockets of working families. The Conservative leader has never had a job in the economy. He continues to obstruct. He continues to talk rhetoric. It's time for that leader to get on board, help us build Canada strong. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
A member for Calgary Midnapore.
Well, this Prime Minister is traveling around the world and making big speeches, but what is he really achieving for Canadians? Food inflation is twice as high as when the Prime Minister took office, and Canada now leads the G7 in food inflation. The Prime Minister promised to be judged by the prices at the grocery store. Yesterday, Conservatives tried to help by presenting a real solution to lower grocery prices for Canadians, yet the Liberals voted against this common-sense motion. So will the Prime Minister now eat his words because Canadians can't?
Wow.
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, Mr. Speaker, what the Prime Minister is doing is creating investment in Canada, investment that has made it such that Canada created more jobs than the United States. Not more per capita, not more per capita.
So that's an absolute lie. They're looking at data from the last quarter, and most of the jobs he's talking about were part-time jobs and jobs funded by your tax dollars being hired in the federal government, which are going to be fired soon.
More jobs than the United States. This Prime Minister, I hope he keeps traveling and bringing home those jobs, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Abbotsford South Langley.
Mr. Speaker, Canada leads the G7 in food inflation. Prices are rising twice as fast as in the United States, and yesterday the Liberals voted against the Conservative plan to lower food costs. The industrial carbon tax is driving up costs for farm machinery, for fertilizers, and for food processors. When you tax the farmer, you tax every Canadian. When will the Liberals work with us to cut this unnecessary industrial carbon tax and the 17 cents a litre fuel standard tax that are driving up grocery prices?
The Honourable Minister for Veterans Affairs.
Mr. Speaker, my colleague from British Columbia is asking a question about something that's incredibly important to all Canadians. And you know what? This government has taken steps to address this. We are introducing the groceries and essentials benefit, which is going to put money in the pockets of families so that they can acquire the things that they need. A family of 4 will receive up to $1,890 this year and $1,400 for the next 4 years. We're taking action to support the families in BC.
The Honourable Member for Charlesbourg au Saint Charles. Mr. Speaker, we know that since the Liberals have come to power, grocery prices are up, the cost of living is up, and for a single-parent family, it's harder for them to pay for rent. Can the Prime Minister confirm that all the members of the Cabinet agree with the idea of personally helping vulnerable people to have access to affordable housing? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, it's important to take account of the needs of our constituents, and the strategy we're adopting is one that's based on giving back purchasing power to Canadians. And that's essentially what we're focusing on. For us, it's important. But in this strategy, there are food strategies. There are also job creation strategies. And we also need the cooperation from the opposition, not obstruction. Thank you. Just to specify, I won't be voting personally. Well, the Honourable Member for Charlebourg or Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, I think my colleague across the way did not hear the news, but in the Journal de Montréal this morning, we learned that a single-parent mother is being kicked out of her housing, and this member realized that she's showing a lack of empathy and morals. Honourable Government House Leader, Mr. Speaker, I don't know if this has any relationship with anything to do with our government administration. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals should never have cancelled the incentives for the purchase of EVs. So it's good news that they're being reinstated for vehicles manufactured here or in countries with which we have free trade agreements like Europe. But the problem is that the federal government is blocking affordable EVs from Europe. Ottawa has decided that these cars, which are good for everyone else on the planet, are not good enough for Canada. Will the government offer people a choice by allowing European electric cars?
Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the contrary, we welcome these EVs because our rebate applies as part of the free trade agreement, including that with Europe. So our auto strategy includes a lot of incentives to attract people to increase our future in electric vehicles in Canada. That's exactly what our policy is doing. The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Mr. Speaker, reinstating incentives for the purchase of EVs is a small step forward, but it still doesn't erase the Liberals' setbacks and bringing EVs in. It won't lead to lasting mobility. They cut $5 billion from the public transit fund while subsidizing oil companies to the tune of tens of billions. They're also agreeing with Alberta to build a new dirty oil pipeline, even as they claim to be promoting electric transportation. Why is it that when it comes to the Liberals, they take one step forward but 1,000 steps backward?
Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate my colleague's question. But once again, it's the opposite. Our announcement today includes a national network for EVs with an investment of $1.5 billion. So this is a national project which includes Quebec to welcome this green future and EVs in our country.
The Honourable Member for Parry-Sound-Muskoka.
New home sales in the GTA have fallen to their lowest level in 45 years, putting 100,000 jobs at risk. Home ownership among 30 to 34-year-olds has dropped from 62% to 52%. Young Canadians are losing hope. 93% of Gen Z and millennials are worried about housing, and nearly half of them are planning to leave their home communities. The Prime Minister promised to help Canadians buy their first home. So after nearly a decade, why are sales collapsing, builders laying off workers, and ownership is getting further and further out of reach?
The Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it's a good day to be asking that question. We've introduced the Build Canada Homes Act this morning. precisely, Mr. Speaker, to make sure that young Canadians have access to affordable housing going forward. We've dedicated $13 billion in the budget. We need the support of members in this House to pass that budget, to invest in young Canadians. We need the support. We don't need obstruction on the Build Canada Homes Act to make sure we have a lean, mean agency to deliver that funding to young Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for Harrison Muskoka.
Well, I guess we shouldn't be surprised that the minister is talking about his Build Canada Rentals project, but home ownership is what's collapsing. In 2020, 69%.
And he's right when he says build home rentals, because they're putting these houses on federal land, right? Citizens won't be able to purchase those homes. Full rentals, because that's the future that Liberals want. You will own nothing and you will eat bugs.
Percent of starts were for ownership. Today, it's 49%. New home sales are down 45% in the GTA, and builders are laying off workers. So it's a very simple question to the minister. Do you really, truly believe that creating a fourth federal housing bureaucracy without reducing taxes or fees or all the approval delays will really make it easier for Canadians to buy their first home?
Yes or no? The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm concerned that the member opposite doesn't care about renters. In my city, half of the population rents housing.
He didn't ask you about renters, fool. He asked you about people who want to buy homes, because we know you want a future where people can afford homes and can only rent.
And certainly we do not discriminate against those who choose to buy or rent. Many Canadians don't have a choice. That's why we have to make affordable housing options possible for all Canadians. Make sure they have a safe home.
So there you have it. Affordable housing for the Liberals is not housing you can afford to buy. It's housing that you might be affordable to rent. That's the future the Liberals have for Canadians.
We don't need any delays in this House to the budget or to the Build Canada Homes Act. We need to deliver affordable housing for Canadians. I hope the member will support us on our bill.
Honourable member for Flamborough, Glanbrook, Brant North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A new report from the Missing Middle Initiative warns of a lost decade for home ownership. For every 100 new adults, there will be only 12 housing starts intended for ownership. Nearly half of young Canadians say they've considered leaving their city or province because of housing costs. Now the market is seizing up. New home sales in the GTA have hit a 45-year low, putting 100,000 jobs at risk. Builders are laying off workers and fear they may not survive. When will the Liberals adopt our plan to get their bureaucracy out of the way so young Canadians can buy?
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it is critical that we build housing in the GTA that is affordable. We want to get the industry back building affordable housing for Canadians, certainly in the GTA, but across the country. We're seeing good housing starts in many cities across the country, but we're just getting started with affordability. And we need to deliver with members around this House on the Build Canada Homes Act. No obstruction. Let's get to build.
What is he talking about? Housing starts across several nations? No, there are no housing starts. If the Toronto is down the worst in 45 years, do you think really housing is going to be up anywhere else? Maybe in a few places in Alberta where they still have some money and are actually still have some industry running, but everywhere else, there's no bloody housing being built. And if there are, these are projects that started a long time ago and took a long time to get going. But right now, nobody can afford new houses. All the condos are just basically the banks. If you listen to Ron over on his channel, the banks are just basically doing fraud to keep people from losing their shirts by buying their mortgages out for them and allowing them to have a mortgage for something that's worth a lot less now because of these clowns.
The Honourable Member for Brampton West.
Mr. Speaker, young Canadians are being locked out from home ownership. Home ownership is collapsing. For 30 to 34-year-olds, it fell from 60% to 52%. Supply is broken. For every 100 new adults, only 12 ownership homes are built. Sales are crashing, down 45% in the GTA, down 56% in Vancouver. Builders are laying off workers. 100,000 jobs are at risk. 93 of young Canadians are worried. When will the Liberals adopt our plans and get out of the way so young Canadians can buy their first home?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Combating Crime.
Mr. Speaker, we have good news for this House. Just today, we tabled the Build Canada Homes Act, and we are hopeful that the Conservatives will not obstruct this bill, as they've been doing with our budget that provides more affordability measures to Canadians so that they can have that dream of buying their first home, so that they can live in affordable housing. That is the dream of all Bramptonians. That is what I hear from my constituents, and this act will help us meet those goals, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member.
So every time they say obstructing, it's not obstructing. What they're doing is going through the bills in committee. That's their bloody job. But the Liberals, of course, always have to sell a message of hate and fear, always an oppressor, always with a victim with these people.
For Red Deer.
Mr. Speaker, the Liberal housing crisis is hitting communities of every size. The City of Red Deer has been asking for a meeting with the Housing Minister for months to address their housing concerns. And despite writing to him 4 times, it seems like Red Deer is too small for the Minister to care to respond. I sure hope Red Deer isn't being ignored because it doesn't deliver Liberal votes like Toronto and Vancouver. Will the Minister finally agree to sit down with the City of Red Deer and listen to their issues and admit that mid-sized cities are facing a housing crisis too?
The Honourable Minister of Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
Mr. Speaker, once again, Conservatives in Ottawa are out of step with Conservatives in Alberta. Alberta's Minister of Social Services has praised the pace of housing delivery, saying we're getting shovels in the ground and roofs over the head of Albertans. Thousands more low-income Albertans will have a safe, durable house, affordable house that they can count on. Federal Conservatives say they want to work with us, but they can't even work with their own Conservative colleagues on delivering housing for Albertans.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga East Cooksville.
Mr. Speaker, the auto sector is facing the biggest challenge in a generation. Unjustified and unjustifiable tariffs from the United States on our auto sector is leaving our auto workers under a cloud of uncertainty. Our government stands behind our auto sector, behind our communities, and the workers that are facing these new realities head on. Can the Minister of Jobs and Families please tell this House how the newly announced auto strategy will transform Canada's auto industry, protecting our workers today and building the vehicles of tomorrow?
The Honourable Minister of Jobs and Families.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you to the Member of Parliament from Mississauga East Cooksville for his unwavering support for auto workers and the sector. Canada's auto workers and workers are the backbone of our economy, and when our auto sector workers come under attack, our government stands with them and protects them. So today, the Prime Minister and the Ministry of Industry announced Canada's new auto strategy, taking action on what we can control. We're investing $3 billion from the Strategic Response Fund to support the industry, $570 million to support reskilling and upskilling workers. Mr. Speaker, this is how you build Canada strong. We stand together when times are tough, and
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
This Liberal minister says that they stand with auto workers. What it looks like is they stand with Donald Trump, because while Donald Trump imposes 10% tariffs on every single vehicle that comes into Canada,
the member may start over. The member may start over.
Look at the Trump derangement syndrome on full display. Oh my God, it happened on complete meltdown. Oh my God,
I didn't see anything unparliamentary in that. But, the honourable member for Dufferin-Caledon.
The Liberal minister just said that they stand with auto workers, but it sure looks like they stand with Donald Trump. Let me explain. While Donald Trump imposes 10% tariffs on every single vehicle that comes into Canada, these Liberals have passed an EV mandate that is actually going to give Canadian taxpayer dollars in the form of subsidies to American-made EVs. You actually can't make this up. Less than 5% of Canadian vehicles will qualify for this EV subsidy. Why are they contributing to Donald Trump's Buy American instead of preserving jobs in Canada?
The Honourable Minister, Secretary of State, Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If that member and the party opposite thinks that we are on the wrong side of Canadian sovereignty, they've got another thing coming. Our approach is all about Canadian sovereignty. It's all about investing in the companies that invest in us. It's all about embracing the future of electrification. It's all about embracing our workers, who are the best workers in the world. And for the members opposite to talk down Canadian sovereignty or to talk down this sector at this moment of real challenge, when we've got an opportunity to solve it, is really beneath them.
The Honourable Member for Dufferin-Caledon.
It's time for a little bit of education for these Liberals, Mr. Speaker. Less than 5% of vehicles manufactured in Canada will qualify for this EV rebate. The rest will come from the United States and other foreign manufacturers. But imagine you're the auto worker in Brampton who is supposed to manufacture the Jeep Compass EV. That job went to the United States. That Jeep EV Compass being manufactured in the United States is actually going to be subsidized by your taxpayer dollars. If you are that auto worker in Brampton, you are looking at this Liberal government and how this is going to benefit Donald Trump and saying, what the hell is going on in Ottawa?
We just have to watch our language a little bit, though. We just have to watch our language. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary of the Minister of Industry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I'll tell you what the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association has to say about today's announcement. We welcome the government's automotive strategy announced today. Funding to support renewed purchase incentives and a robust charging infrastructure strategy will help continue to drive EV adoption, and CVMA members are well positioned to support the shift to electrification through diverse product offerings. That sounds like Canadian sovereignty to me, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable Member for Northumberland, Clark.
Mr. Speaker, in 2014, under the then Conservative government, the New York Times declared that Canada's middle class was the richest in the world. Now our middle class faces skyrocketing costs and taxes and a stagnant GDP per capita and a declining standard of living. The Prime Minister promised the fastest growing G7 economy by building major projects. However, the major national project, they built none. And they continue to build none. The time to act is now. When will they collaborate with Conservatives and finally bring prosperity back to our great land?
The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, I have good news for my friend. Today, Trans Mountain just said they will be increasing the amount of oil they transport by 10% on the first of 3 optimization projects. That's how we build Canada.
Wait a minute, there's something wrong here because the pipeline, as last I looked, was at 95% capacity. How the hell can they increase it more? They're running out of space. They were told ahead of time they're going to run out of space, and they're going to run out. This is a lie.
The Honourable Member for Northumberland, Clark.
It always worries me when this government opens up, we have good news, because it rarely is. What we're asking for, what Canadians want, are new pipelines, new projects, and the amount that they've approved, absolutely zero. This government needs to reverse course that has led 2 million Canadians to food banks, admit that their policies have failed, embrace Conservative principles fully, and collaborate with Conservatives to bring prosperity back to our country.
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, they keep asking for pipelines. We just gave them one. We're building thousands of jobs in Darlington. We're building, they're not.
So that's a lie. There has been no new pipeline approved. I don't know why. They think they can get away with it. Well, they will get away with it because the CQJO media will just repeat their lies.
The honourable member for Niagara South.
Mr. Speaker, Bloomberg reports that Canada's economy is on life support. Canada's GDP growth was 0 in November. Productivity continues to fall, and the Bank of Canada expects that just 1% growth next year, with business investment being postponed. How bad is it? Home builders in Niagara have laid off 60% of their framers due to stalled residential construction. The Prime Minister promised the fastest growing economy in the G7, yet growth is stalled. Will the Prime Minister please adopt conservative ideas that remove barriers so Canadians can actually build and grow again?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, I know what constitutes good news for Canadians does not always constitute good news for Conservatives, Mr. Speaker. But let me give them another piece of good news. The first major national project this spring breaks ground, le port de Contrecoeur, an expansion de 60%, an exposed container port capacity, Mr. Speaker. We're going to build more stuff. We're going to put more stuff on boats. We're going to send more things to more places around the world, expand our trade, put people to work, and build Canada.
The honourable member for Barrie Springwater, Earl Medante.
Mr. Speaker, Canada made international headlines this week, with economists stating that our economy is on life support and the country is already on recession watch. Our per capita GDP is falling, residential construction is flat, businesses are postponing expansion, and this Liberal government's anti-development laws and taxes remain in place. Will the Prime Minister work with Conservatives and introduce a plan to remove the barriers that are preventing Canadians from building, investing, and working?
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, speaking of building, we're building big. The Port of Montreal expansion project is 7,000 construction jobs and over 1,000 permanent jobs. Darlington Nuclear is 18,000 good-paying jobs and clean power for generations. LNG Canada and BC mean thousands of jobs and Canadian energy reaching new global market, Mr. Speaker. That's cranes in the ground, paychecks in pockets, and Canada building big.
The honourable member for Saskatoon West.
Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister sells himself as a master of economics, yet Bloomberg reports that our economy is on life support. The Bank of Canada expects economic growth to shrink in the last quarter and only grow by 1.1% this year. Canadian workers want to build and produce, but the government is holding them back with their anti-development laws and high taxes. The Prime Minister promised the fastest growing economy in the G7, yet he hasn't delivered, and Canadians are paying the price. When will he listen to our ideas and introduce a plan that gets his government's barriers and tax burdens out of the way so Canadians can build?
The Honourable Secretary of State for Northern and Rural Development.
For 10 long years, the Conservative from Saskatchewan said Canada was broken. Yes, sir. They have stifled the opportunity that Saskatchewan had in potash and uranium, oil and gas, Mr. Speaker, and the list goes on. Well, Saskatchewan's on this side of the House, Mr. Speaker. Yes, we're going to work hand in hand with Saskatchewan, join the rest of the country, and build a great future. This is about economic and social justice for Saskatchewan. We are going to deliver that, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Yellowhead.
Mr. Speaker, according to Bloomberg, Canada's economy is on life support, and we are now on recession watch. Growth has stagnated, and real GDP is expected to decline. Forestry and logging are down 2.8% for the third month. While the Prime Minister cannot deliver on his trade promises, sawmills in Yellowhead are paying the price. Since the Liberals love our ideas, why don't they remove the industrial carbon tax, fuel standards, and anti-development laws so Canadian businesses can succeed?
The Honourable Minister for Artificial Intelligence and Digital Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, the contrast couldn't be more clear. We like to build, they like to block. We're building our auto sector with the new auto strategy. They're blocking. We're building affordable housing. They are blocking. We are investing in defense. They are blocking. We're making life more affordable for families with the GST tax credit. They are blocking. We like to build. They like to block. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Nickelbelt.
Write him up, Jim.
Mr. Speaker, the latest data from Rosenberg Research is deeply concerning. Manufacturing output is down, forestry has declined for 3 consecutive months, and paper mills in Northern Ontario are closing. The Prime Minister promised the fastest growing economy in the G7. Instead, his government has failed to remove a single anti-development policy. When will this government adopt our plan to restore economic growth by reducing red tape, lowering taxes, and allowing Canadians to invest, work, and build?
Hear, hear. Hear.
The Honourable Minister for Natural Resources.
Mr. Speaker, as the former Premier of Alberta said, you can't deal with the reality of the tariff threat by pretending it's not there. But the Conservatives would rather obstruct. We have $2.5 billion allocated in Budget 2025 to attack this problem. Please support the budget.
The Honourable Member for Hamilton Mountain.
Speaker, we recently hit 100 days since Build Canada Homes was launched, and we're already seeing real momentum on the ground.
Wow.
Projects are moving faster, partnerships are coming together, and communities are seeing concrete progress on affordable housing. Would the Minister for Housing and Infrastructure please update this House on all we've accomplished and what more there is to come?
What a great...
Honourable Minister of Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A big thanks to the member for the question and her great work. We have got right to work with Build Canada Homes, Mr. Speaker. Since the launch, we've been signing major partnerships with provinces and cities. We have 6 major development sites on federal lands. We are delivering over 7,500 homes with over tens of thousands more in the pipeline right now, Mr. Speaker, with the Build Canada Homes Act, which is introduced this morning, which we expect the support of this House on. We're establishing a lean, efficient agency that is 100% focused on delivering affordable housing for Canadians. We ask for your support.
The Honourable Member for Richmond North Vaska. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Once again, we are seeing another Liberal IT fiasco. The system to administer old age security has gone from costing $1.75 billion to $6.5 billion. And even worse, 93% of civil servants are giving it a failing grade. Employees are being ordered to not criticize the software when they talk to the public. Mr. Speaker, how could this fiasco happen? What is the minister going to do about this software? Did the minister sign off on this irresponsible spending?
60-year-old system is not an easy task, and I want to start by thanking the employees at ESDC who are working so hard to make sure that seniors get their benefits on time and in accuracy. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, that's exactly what's happened. 98% of the cases are through, and I will say that we are working diligently on remaining outstanding cases where people have not yet received their benefits who have signed up to do so. If that member opposite has an urgent case, or any member of Parliament has an urgent case, we can accelerate those cases in situations where people are in dire need. Please contact my office.
The Honourable Member for Richmond North Vaska. Mr. Speaker, departmental employees are telling us it's not working. Our seniors built our country and paid taxes their whole lives. And now some of them are waiting up to 8 months to get their money. I'll give you a concrete case. Mr. Martial Lavoie, in my writing, he's still waiting for his check. He actually delayed his retirement because at the time there was a labor shortage. So he kept working, and now that he's finally trying to retire, he can't get his money. Mr. Speaker, what would the minister say to Mr. Lavoie? He's listening right now.
We are happy to help any senior that finds themselves in dire needs. And as I said, we are making progress. This is a very small percentage of the over 7 million Canadians who have been successfully transferred to the CURM system. This system, Mr. Speaker, brings us into the modern age, what Canadians want. In fact, seniors can now apply online and have a fully automated process to get their benefits started. In these cases where things have been done in the old way with paper forms. Often there is missing information. There may be other challenges. We have put additional resources to ensuring we get through those cases, and we can help members just like Mr. Lavoie.
L'honorable député de Lévis.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, not only is this government stealing land from farmers, it is also closing agri-foods research centres, such as the Sainte-Foy Centre in the riding of the member for Louis-Hébert, which is one of the 7 agri-foods research centres that the Liberals are arbitrarily closing. Canadian science and innovation is built in these centres, which help us be more productive. How can the Prime Minister justify his decision to prioritize consultants and foreign projects rather than our homegrown expertise that feeds Canadians?
Honourable Minister of Agriculture and Agri-Food.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It warms my heart that the Conservatives are now concerned about science and research.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm happy to reassure them that the federal government will continue the largest agriculture researcher in this country. In fact, just last month, Mr. Speaker, we invested $9.7 million with the government of Saskatchewan in science and research. We're not going anywhere. We still have 17 centres across the country. We're going to work with our stakeholders. We're going to work with academia, and we're going to make research better than it ever has been. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Member for Nunavut.
In Rankin Inlet, the NDP caucus heard from one Inuk who shared that he has waited for 11 years for a house. There are 17 people in his 2-bedroom unit. His story is all too common in Nunavut. The government is acting on what I've told them. Nunavut will receive 50 more homes added to the 700 originally promised in the budget. This is a good start. Will the minister keep working with Nunavut to address the worst housing crisis in Canada?
You're here.
22 years ago, 24 years ago, I went up north with my squadron. We went all the way to Iqaluit, and then we went further up to Pangerton. And anyways, that was a whole fiasco. But what I did discover in Iqaluit was that when you work there, come wintertime, you might have a nice little government provided apartment, you know, because they hired you, you showed up in the summer, you're going to work there through the winter, you paid a bunch of money, realize it costs a bunch of money to live there, but you know, the housing is limited, so they give you a nice apartment, and you're like, oh, not too bad. And then as soon as it gets cold outside, you get a knock on the door. Yeah, you know, oh yeah, here's 5 people that need to live with you for the winter because it's cold outside and they have no place else to live. And you're like, pardon? Oh no, you don't have a choice, buddy. They have to live with you. So that's happening nonstop up north. And obviously it hasn't gotten any better whatsoever. Nobody really cares about what happens up north because it has very little visibility until it matters too much. But, you know, they keep voting in NDP up north, so their voice is going to be limited in Parliament.
The Honourable Minister for Housing and Infrastructure.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for her question. I'm very excited to share that the Government of Canada, the Government of Nunavut, and Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated reached an agreement to deliver up to 750 homes in the territory there. Build Canada Homes will lead this work using innovative factory-built components to get homes ready faster. We're prioritizing Canadian materials, we're supporting Inuit-owned businesses, and creating lots of job opportunities and training opportunities. This partnership will make a real difference on the ground. I thank her for her leadership in helping bring more homes to Nunavut that are much-needed affordable homes, and I encourage all.
The Honourable Member for North Island, Powell River.
Good news, Mr. Speaker. Canada's energy regulator has rejected Brookfield's plans to send Canadian hydroelectricity to the United States with almost no benefit to the people who live here, and has instead recommended a full licensing process and review. But the final decision still rests with the Minister of Natural Resources. So will that minister commit to accepting the energy regulator's recommendations and ensuring that Canada's national interests always come first?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister of Natural Resources.
Let me reassure the member across the aisle that our government is working closely with the government of British Columbia to build an affordable, reliable, and clean electricity grid that meets the significant surge in demand we are expecting in the years to come. As the member opposite said, this matter is currently before the Commission of the Canadian Energy Regulator, which makes its decisions independent of the federal government in the best interests of Canada's ability to meet its domestic energy needs.
The honourable member.
So he didn't answer. He's going to let the independent decision be made, and then he's going to ignore it to allow Brookfield to continue to get rich, because that's what these liberals do, right? That's why he didn't give a direct answer.
For Nunavut.
The state of emergency in Cross Lake Pimicikamak is now over 40 days long. The Army came, made recommendations, and left. And where is the federal government? Still brainstorming solutions. Meanwhile, evacuees remain stranded in cities without adequate supports. When will Ottawa move past talking points, at a minimum implement the Army's recommendations, and uphold their constitutional responsibilities to support people returning to a safe home?
The Honourable Minister for Emergency Management and Community Resilience.
I can assure my friend across the aisle that emergency management, our department was in contact with that nation from the commencement of the power outage. We've worked, as has Indigenous Services Canada, to make sure that firstly we sent the Canadian Armed Forces, and secondly that there were sufficient people on the ground to help evacuate and provide benefits to the region. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Saanich Gulf Islands.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As International Development Week comes to a close, I know I and many of my colleagues in this place have met with dozens of frontline workers from development organizations who are reeling from the broken promise. During the election, the Liberals promised, the Prime Minister said, quote unquote, we will not cut foreign assistance, we will not cut development assistance, and the budget showed a cut of $2.7 billion. We used to be known in the world. Lester B. Pearson, as former Prime Minister, set the global target for development assistance, and yet here we are falling through the cracks, not delivering. Will the minister commit to reviving the Pearson target?
These people are batshit crazy. We have a quarter of the population at food banks, and she's lamenting not enough money leaving the country, when we're already spending far too much and we can't keep up with the interest debt payments.
The Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Speaker, we remain committed to our long-standing international assistance priorities. We will continue to fight poverty, to support gender equality, to strengthen health, food, and education systems, and build climate resilience. We will continue to deliver urgent humanitarian aid abroad. And Mr. Speaker, the measure of our work is in the partnerships we build to deliver development outcomes at scale. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That concludes question period.
Thursday question.
The motion. I believe as is usually the case on Thursdays, as is always the case on Thursdays, the opposition House Leader, Honourable Opposition House Leader, has a question for the Honourable Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, it is the case, and I believe CPAC refers to this moment as the crown jewel of their weekly programming. And because it is Thursday, I was wondering if the Government House Leader can update the House as to the business for the rest of this week and into the next week, and wonder specifically if the government has had the time to analyze and absorb our leader's letter calling for concrete, common sense proposals to not only deal with the cost of living crisis, but also strengthen Canada's position against things like unfair tariffs. The ideas like getting rid of the capital gains tax on investments that are reinvested into Canada. I wonder if we can see legislation on that, rather than a complicated rebate scheme that will see Canadian tax dollars go to subsidize the purchase of foreign-built EVs. If we can expect any legislation that would include getting the Conservative idea of getting rid of the GST on all Canadian produced vehicles. Those are the types of concrete measures that will not only lower the cost of living for Canadians, but also help build our economy. So will the government take us up as we extend our hands across the way for common sense solutions? Will he take us up on that offer, or will they once again double down on failed policies of the past?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Well, there's a lot to digest in that, but I am, if what I hear, and I think all Canadians will appreciate this metaphor at this time of year, if I hear the faint sound of the ice cracking in the wall of conservative obstruction that this Parliament has encountered, the obstruction of our criminal law legislation, the obstruction of the Prime Minister's economic...
Fuck you, Steve, with your constant regurgitation of obstruction. Just fuck you.
Plan to bring $1 trillion of investment and to build Canada strong. If what I hear is the faint sounds of that dam cracking, that means that spring might be on its way, and the opposition may put down their tools of obstruction and join us in building our country strong. In the meantime, Mr. Speaker, this afternoon we will continue with debate on the opposition motion brought forward by the Bloc Québécois. Tomorrow we will have the debate on the standing orders and procedure pursuant to Standing Order 51, a very hotly awaited moment in the parliamentary calendar, Mr. Speaker. On Monday of next week, we will call Bill C-10, an act respecting the Commissioner for Modern Treaty Implementation at second reading. I would also like to inform all honourable members that next Tuesday and Thursday shall be allotted days.
On Wednesday, we will begin second reading of Bill C-20, an act respecting the establishment of Build Canada Homes, Mr. Speaker, which was tabled earlier this morning by my honourable colleague, the Minister of Housing and Infrastructure, and the Minister responsible for the economic development in Canada for the Pacific. Finally, Mr. Speaker, there have been consultations amongst the parties, and I believe that you will find that the House will give unanimous consent to the following motion. That notwithstanding any standing order or usual practice of the House, at the conclusion of oral questions on Friday, February 6, 2026, the House observe a moment of silence for the late Honourable Kirsty Duncan. That afterwards, a member of each of the recognized parties, a member of the New Democratic Party, and the member of the Green Party, each be permitted to make a statement for no more than 5 minutes to pay tribute, and the time taken for these proceedings shall be added to the time provided for government orders. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All those who oppose the honourable member, the honourable minister moving the motion will please say nay. Agreed. The House has heard the terms of the motion. All those who oppose the motion will please say nay. Carried.
Orders of the day. The Honourable... sorry.
All right, that's the end of the question period, along with the setup of the business for the next week, which tells me that they're not ready to call an election next week. They're setting up business. I guess that's the news of the day. Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I see that the Bloc Québécois brought up OAS again. I think this is their time now since the winter session started. I've been collecting those files. I'll be putting a video together of that for the weekend. I thought I might get one out, but I figured they'd probably be talking about it again. They keep bringing it up again. This is a software issue that they did not do any proper follow through on. You know, when we usually change softwares when you're doing aircraft maintenance and use that same software to release aircraft, you know, because everything is certified, you have to make sure that when your aircraft goes up, it's not going to like break and fall out of the sky and crash and kill people on the ground and those flying it. But, you know, OAS, well, people are dependent on that to live. And they did not apply the same kind of follow through. So when you move to a new electronic paperwork system in the aviation industry, you usually do concurrent activities. You keep the old system running while the new system is implemented to make sure that it runs. You do parallel activities. And then once the new one has worked out all the bugs and you're safe with it, then you drop off the old one. But they didn't do that here, did they? No. They decide to go full bore with a brand new system. We'll fix the bugs along the way, not caring that it affects people's lives. And people have had to sell off their investments just to make ends meet because they were dependent upon a system as part of their social contract of living in Canada. Social contracts that the Liberals have been breaking nonstop willy-nilly since they've been in 2015. Oh, you expected that in life in Canada? No, no, no. The new cultural Marxist ideology that we follow of National Socialism, giving you economic band-aids for everything, will not accept that. So you have to accept our rule over you over everything. And that is what we can expect from the Liberals, as you can see in Parliament. They won't answer any questions. They won't deal with anything that's common sense. They're given options and they just come back and double down on failure every single time. And the media helps them along the way. Well, thank you all for coming out. We'll be back tomorrow early again, Blazing Cat for Fridays at 9 o'clock, where you do a cold read through of the best news aggregate in the GTA that's been publishing his site for 20 years now, this February this year. So please visit his site. And after that, we'll be taking a bit of a break and then we'll be back at 10:30, I believe, for for the House to start 45 minutes later for that. So there probably won't be a bit of a pre-show tomorrow, or there might be. I don't know. Well, it depends on how things are going along. Anyways, thank you all for coming out. Please leave us some comments if you're watching this on repeat. You will get an answer, and we will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye. And we will do an outro with Space Cat.
Meanwhile, the Liberals have sent hundreds of millions of Canadian tax dollars overseas for stupid, ideologically driven pet projects like $8 million for gender-just rice farming in Vietnam, closing Canadian research centers that benefit Canadians. Why not stop the phony foreign aid?
If the Conservatives want the truth, we'll tell them the truth.
Speech yesterday from the Prime Minister really freaked these Conservatives out because they saw the ambition in that speech. And not only did they see it in that speech today, as the Prime Minister stood with the Premier investing in new nuclear to ensure the jobs of today and the future, they know that the youth...
The only thing that's revolting are those answers.
Speaker, we will take no lessons from these Conservatives. Trust me on that.
The Minister didn't write the Prime Minister's speech yesterday because it wouldn't have bored and depressed to tears.
It's really hard to follow, isn't it, Mr. Speaker?
All of those poor students stuck in that room. There he spoke about how they would have to sacrifice more and that it would take time to reverse all of the misery that has built up over the last 10 years. Mr. Speaker, young people want to have homes. They want to have jobs. They want to have hope. They want a budget that is affordable so they can have a life that is affordable. Will the Prime Minister introduce that budget so that Canadians can restore the promise of their country?
And we decide what comes next.
Know that this government has their back and we will continue to do this. Moving forward, there's going to be a powerful statement for the young people of Canada.
Deficits are driving inflation. The more Liberals spend, the more it costs Canadians at the grocery store. 25% of Canadians are using food banks because they can't afford to eat. So when will the Prime Minister finally get his inflationary deficits under control so Canadians can put food on the table?
Mr. Speaker, Conservative members pretend to care about food insecurity, but then they call feeding children garbage.
Mr. Speaker, what's garbage was that answer?
Did the Prime Minister see the ad before it went out?
Hey, of course there are too many people living in poverty in Canada, but there are significant initiatives being put in place by this government.
Being serious means being honest.
Mr. Speaker, the grand reveal has been made.
Canada's economy is in fact growing, Mr. Speaker.